Top thing of all is like think like a search engineer and think where search is going, because the principles of search, they never change. Use your brain, use your judgment, and sometimes you want things to work in a way that's not what the tool tells you to do. I think any new SEO, besides learning the basics of SEO, like I think they should go in deeper to understand the whys.
What's your take on the real impact AI will have?
We are using AI, and many people use AI as if it were intelligent, and I don't think AI is intelligent. I chose not to use AI to publish anything that is public-facing. Stop reading SEO blog posts and content that SEOs put out.
Welcome to the Agency Insider Show, where we explore strategies that define modern marketing, growth, and search. I'm your host, Navneet Kaushal, and today I'm joined by Pedro, an SEO veteran, former Google Search Quality Team member, technical SEO consultant, and one of the most respected voices in SEO community. Pedro, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Navneet. Thank you for the invitation. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, let's start with your journey, and of course, you've worked with Google as well. So you had one of the most unique SEO careers. I only know, I haven't interviewed many people who've been ex-Google. So yes, so from working at Google on the search quality team to now helping brands navigate SEO at scale, how did that journey evolve?
So yeah, I had quite an unusual kind of path. I started to play with search engines even before I joined Google. I remember playing with Alta Vista and all these search engines that from the old days. And then in end of 2005, beginning of 2006, the chance to join Google arose. And I was in Portugal at the time. I moved out of Portugal, went to Ireland. That's where the Google headquarters was. And I started within a search engine. Since then, I left Google already. I left Google more time than I've been at Google. So I left Google in 2011, end of 2011, right after Panda was released,
Yes.
and just before Penguin. And then I went to Brazil because I'm Portuguese, from Portugal. So my native language is Portuguese. And the biggest language market for Portuguese language is Brazil. I went to Brazil. I opened my business there with some people that worked at Google in Brazil. And I was there for 10 years, more or less. After that, I moved to the UK. I wanted just to be closer to the family. And, Brazil being Brazil, there's always like a mix of reasons that makes you leave something behind. So I'm in the UK now. I'm based in London. And, all in all, I've been in SEO for 20 years now, or in search. So it's because in SEO, if you want to say SEO, after I left Google, then it's from 2011, 2012 onwards. But I think, my knowledge in search comes before that, since I started Google. So I count that as in search as well. So 20 years.
Okay. Now, you moved from, of course, inside of Google Search Quality team to running a high-level consulting for top brands. Now, what skill or mindset you developed at Google that you still use every day with your clients?
Well, I think the top thing of all is think like a search engineer and think where search is going, because the principles of search, they never change. And the basics of a system information retrieval engine, which is like a crawler, they never change. Their limitations are pretty much the same as they've been, with some improvements in speed and accuracy and so to speak. But the process by which a system and a bot fetches information and ingests information, these things remain true. So as long as you think like a search engineer and that Google chases users, and you put users first in terms of user experience, user expectation, what is quality for a search engine, and it was quality for a user. These principles are never outdated. They're always going to be, up to date. So I think this was one of the best teachings that I've had from Google, is putting together because I started my career after I graduated from university as a marketing, graphic design, web design, this ramification of things, which is a very human driven aspect of, because you design for people, you make websites for people, and what Google taught me was the middle of the way. So what if you ever think about systems and design and processes for bots? So now I could conciliate the two worlds, and I understand it a bit better. So yeah, in a nutshell, think like a search engineer and assess like the processes that are required on a technical aspect and qualitative.
So when you move from, of course, being a gatekeeper with a search quality gatekeeper now to an agency, were there any big surprises?
Well, surprisingly, Google doesn't teach you to do business. Business is a whole thing on itself. So Google teaches you like to think like a product person, and I have a very much of a product mindset. And until the gears of selling and making business kicked in, it took a little bit, and I hope that I would have learned this earlier. But it's something that you never prepared for everything. But so I think since my remit at Google was the Portuguese language market, since I'm native Portuguese, so I oversaw the results for Google for the Portuguese language. Obviously, I had interactions with people from all over, other languages from all over the world, and I saw what was happening in English, in German, in Polish, whatever language I wanted to see things, because it's useful to communicate between the teams from different languages, so you perceive like how trends are evolving, how things are changing between countries. But then this kind of so this gives you like a global mindset, a product focused mindset in terms of what you want a website to be and what traits it should have, how it should work, the differences between how developers design websites and how people interact with websites. I think this is very important. But the thing that I was not as prepared was for the business part of things, mainly for the sales part, for the being more marketing than product. So this took me a little bit of a year or so to get my hands on. But then I think after that it was okay.
Okay. Now let's talk about technical SEO, which of course and product management, which actually you've been one of the few voices talking about SEO as a product function and not just marketing. So what does that mean in practice?
Well, that means that I see SEO is a very horizontal area or discipline or whatever you want to call it, that when you apply it to some business, it usually goes across teams. So you interacting with the platform team, with the content team, with the design team, with everyone that touches the website in some aspect. We will have some interest in bridging with them and liaising with them, because they will help you implement things that you want. And on SEO can be seen from two lenses. The lens is where you see something as a result that a search engine presents to you, and you have to work on content. And that's a very, I call it a bit reductionist without prejudice. I don't have any, but I think it's a bit reductionist in a way that you focus on rankings and you focus on keywords and you focus on what people are searching. So this is the marketing side of things. And for me, that's a very reduced and volatile part. And although it has some alignment with SEO, I don't think it aligns very fully or well, because marketing is composed by, evergreen topics and hot topics and all of these things. And SEO, while SEO is very good at the evergreen part of things and the more long-term planning, is not so good at reacting instantly to market changes and the hot topics. This is better catered with like paid advertising and social media and through other channels that are more immediate than SEO. So this takes me to approach SEO more from the product side of things, where I see results in Google as a byproduct of what you work with in other teams. So like I was saying, I liaise with teams like from on the content side, on the design side, on the platform side, and I try to understand the website as a product or the software that I'm trying to optimize the website for, in terms of, like, for example, you can see any website as a product, because the website is consumed by users in a way that it was designed to work. But like I was saying earlier, not people don't use the website the way sometimes it was designed to work. So programmers and developers develop certain functionalities, and then people kind of either get confused or accept functionalities in a more or less in a good way. And then this also applies to search engines, because search engines will have certain, abilities or restrictions into consuming information that is on a website, depending on how it's developed. And depending of the characteristics of a software as a service or an e-commerce website that can be seen as a product itself, because it has a lot of functionality embedded in it, or even like a news website, where the product itself is surfing news, is serving content, but it's a product in itself. It's a digital newspaper. So you need to understand what are the implications of the roadmap for that product, what are the features that the business wants to bring as features, functionalities, value for users, and understand how that will translate into SEO, and how that will help SEO gain traction and SEO gain visibility, and how you leverage every bit of work that all the other teams are doing for your advantage in terms of giving the business visibility and more traction and such. So this is where I see as SEO being more aligned with, because it's more of a long-term plan, as product by nature is a long-term roadmap. You plan product in a 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, 10-year plan, and then you align SEO with it, because you'll need resources, you will need a commitment from product, you'll need resources from everyone that's working along with it. So, and this for me is much more rewarding and fulfilling to work with, because I will go in depth into the product and understand all the intricacies of the product. I will learn the vertical and the product in depth. Whereas marketing or being a consultant, you usually learn it more in an horizontal way, more superficial, and you'll learn it across different scenarios, if you are a consultant, you'll have knowledge across different competitors that operate on the same niche, because you'll cater to different clients that have the similar problems, but you will never go very much in depth as a product person would go and understand like the user journey and all the traits of that. So for me, this second part, working as a product, is much more what I look for, is much more my path. Also because what I was taught and what was my path at Google, as I told you, Google prepared me much more for the product thinking rather than the marketing and business thinking.
Right. Now, in your client work, how do you convince engineering product team that SEO is an optimization layer and not just an add-on task? And any examples where this changed the outcomes?
Yeah, so it all comes down to show them that their work can have contribution into growth, and it's not something that I just tell them to do because of Google says so, but there are actually documentation for years that have been so that there are principles and guidelines to develop systems or put together an architecture that have been documented for longer than Google has existed. If you look at areas like web accessibility or information architecture or web usability, these areas have been studied since the 80s and 70s, and information architecture goes to the early 90s. So, and these are areas that started outside of the digital world, and they actually then were applied to the digital. So when Google came along, it just used principles that are already in place to develop the systems that it uses to crawl, to index, to determine what is quality and what users want. Because Google chases users. Google wants the best for users, so it has to appease to users in certain ways. So when you explain things to developers and engineers and you tell them, oh, you should change the way that you work, you will be questioned, because engineers do not like, or developers, or they do not like to change the reason on how they do things unless there's a very good justification for it. And more often than not, saying, oh, just because Google says so, is a very weak argument. And usually if you bring more to the table, like, oh, look, the principles of information architecture, or the principles of web accessibility, or say this and this and this, and this is good for users because. So you will couple what is good for Google, but also because it's also good for users and it's a good practice, because in the end, it's going to make their work more scalable, more efficient, and easier to maintain. That will not create so much technical debt. In an essence, you are kind of future-proofing their work. And if you bring this to the table, and if you explain this to them in this lens, in the way that, look, if you do this, I don't want to change your work 100%. I want to see if we can agree on trade-offs, because this is always going to be about trade-offs. You give up on doing it in a certain way to gain something in another way, and it has to make sense for them. And if it doesn't make sense, if this bridge doesn't click, then they will reject, they will push back, and you have to explain them in a way that they understand, either by speaking their language or by tapping into resources, that this is a good thing to do. So this is how I usually kind of liaise with these teams, and then how I was also kind of pitch or report to stakeholders like the CPO or the VP of growth or whatever, because you need to kind of to each of them you need to speak with a different language and with a different lingo that they understand and make sense in their world. So you are the person that is responsible to do this. So you need to understand. You have to have a good understanding of being very technical and speaking with engineers and being very, also product or business driven and speaking with the C-level and the stakeholders. And if you do this well, then you will gain more and you'll have less pushback than the things that will go forward, hopefully.
Right. Now, when talking with product engineer or product teams, how do you decide what SEO work deserves to be prioritized in the development backlog, and what's your playbook for not getting stuck in a ticket purgatory?
Good questions. So you want to give a mix of things, because not everything in the SEO moves the needle in terms of rankings or clicks. Because, for example, if you segment your XML sitemaps, or if you implement, some better HTML rendering, does not necessarily increase like rankings in a direct way.
Right.
But, for example, if you collect better insights because you are doing a better job at splitting XML sitemaps, and now you see in a more granular way what sections of your website are indexing and which ones aren't indexing that well, then you can make more accurate decisions. So on one way, you have to push things like better data gathering. I want, for example, crawl access logs. This doesn't give any clicks, this doesn't give any rankings, but it gives me insights in making better decisions. So this has long been deprioritized in a lot of business because they don't see the value. But you have to put this and present this to the business as, look, if you tap into this and if you put resources into this, you will gain insights and gain insights into answers that you are not able to answer before, or that very few are able to answer. And therefore, whenever you make a decision, chances are that you will always most likely you will make a correct decision rather than an erroneous one. So in one way, you need to prioritize things that show that growth is happening. So you want a mix of things. You want a mix of things that are low-hanging fruits, that are if we fix this immediately, although might not be the ideal way to fix it, it will bring a certain degree of growth. But on the other hand, you always also have in the back of your pocket a group of actions and items that you want to work with that will build the ideal world. So you want to build the data gathering, you want to build the segmentation of your views on how you see the evolution. You want to prepare the website to be more reliable and more efficient. And like I said, not everything brings clicks. So it's a mix. It's a mix because if you just push things that move the needle and you forget everything else, you'll eventually run out of things that move the needle, because there are so many that until you have to start to dig deep and put effort. And if you only do the others, then you kind of get everyone else demotivated because they say, oh, you are here, but you have been here for a year or 2 years. And all you have been doing is like implement things that only give you more work to do, but we don't see any results. So I think, striking a balance between things that move the needle, even if they are like not the ideal scenario that you'd want, and then you'll fix them again at a later stage. Act as a catalyst or a motivator to let you do all the other things as well.
Okay. Now, what's one technical SEO mistake you still see big brand making?
Oof. I'd say redirecting old pages to the home page, for example, or canonicalization of pagination to the home or to the main category, and not letting the search engine kind of perceive the capillarity of the website and the paths to crawl. Especially, I think there's a very stigma in the SEO world in dealing with 404s. For example, I consulted for eBay for almost 2 years, a year and a half, and for Mercado Libre, which is I don't know if you know, it's the eBay for Latin America, for 2 years as well. So they are two of the biggest, e-commerce. You can call it e-commerce, but the marketplaces, the better word. And they have like literally billions of URLs. And if you are going to be redirecting every time a product sells this URL to somewhere else because you're afraid of 404s or losing links, then you will end up imploding the whole system because it's just not scalable. So you need 404s exist for a reason, and they exist to be used. And you need to know how to use them properly. And you don't need to be afraid of having 404s when a page is no longer useful, because that's what it was designed for. Yeah, so I think there's a big stigma in there, and then one of the biggest misconceptions around SEO is that the site cannot have 404s or cannot have like broken external links or whatever, that you have to patrol your website very incessantly in order to fix everything that might be broken in terms of internal or external linking. It's a good practice to not let this happen, like in internal linking, but for example, external linking, you don't have to patrol if all websites that you once linked to are still operating or not.
I myself see a lot of brands doing mistakes. Like, of course, they sometime update the page and the title text are gone, and it takes ages to get it restored. These are very common mistakes. So I don't think if they keep a tab of this or something, so that happens a lot, and it takes so much time to get it back online. So we have seen those type of mistakes a lot of time. Now, And about the new SEOs, so let's say who is new into SEO, what technical foundation do you think they should master first?
Well, I mean, I think any new SEO, besides learning the basics of SEO, like of keywords
Right.
and looking at search engines, I think they should go in deeper to understand the whys. Because um, if you stay within the SEO and you only read what SEOs put out, you'll end up staying in the bubble of SEO and never really understanding why are things developed and work the way they do. And I think it's one of the things that I usually recommend that people that come for me for advice or people that I've mentored over the years is like, stop reading SEO blog posts and content that SEOs put out. Go read something about, information architecture. Go read about the principles of web accessibility. Go read about the principles of usability. Go read about information retrieval, the basics of how a basic search engine works.
Right.
And then you will start to understand the whys. And nowadays, you even have even more chance than ever, because with AI, you can just take like a PDF, a white paper, throw it in some AI chatbot and say, explain this to me like I was 5 years old. And it will dump down the things for you in a way that is very understandable. So you'll have someone that kind of, decomplicates these papers for you, and you'll start to slowly and more understand the whys, and you'll be able to start to question what you read about that SEOs put out, and how even the tools that SEOs that have been used to work. Because sometimes one of the things that I get very frustrated when I work with other people is like they tend to blindly follow what tools tell them to do. And
Okay.
you need to remember that tools were programmed by someone that also has some knowledge of how things work, and the knowledge and the conceptions or misconceptions that they have around search might be not completely aligned with the fact that, or with reality, and even in some ways might be disconnected with yours in your needs. So when you use some kind of SEO plugin for your website or a tool, bear in mind that you do not have to follow blindly what the tool tells you. Use your brain, use your judgment, and sometimes you want things to work in a way that's not what the tool tells you to do, and it's counterintuitive. But your way sometimes is more correct than the tool. So I think this is like, for new SEOs, this is paramount to understand. Like, understand the whys and how things work. Read papers and read documentation from the disciplines and areas that have been in place for decades, and do not rely so blatantly on what SEOs put out and SEOs kind of say. I mean, there are a lot of SEOs that say very good things and put out very good material. I won't deny that, but do your homework, do your diligence. Also, kind of use critical thinking.
Okay. Let's move to our next segment, which is AI and SEO. Of course, everybody's been talking about AI. Now, you've been refreshingly honest about AI's role in SEO, saying it's not the end of search that everyone is making it out to be. So, what's your take on the real impact AI will have?
Well, my impact is like much like the impact that social media had when it appeared. If you remember, like before Google, we only had directories, right? You remember? Probably you remember directories like demos and all of it. And
Yahoo.
before demos, every website had like my favorite websites list, right? So this is how we found things on the web, right? So this is so we started with, these are my favorite sites on the web. Go see my favorite sites that we pass on to friends. And then directories came along, and this favorite websites list disappeared a little bit because we had directories to go to. And then search engines came along and took away what directories have. And then we started to do everything, use search engines to do everything. We started to we use search engines to find things to buy, websites friends that are interesting to read, how to do things, to read the news, to consume content. And so we basically used search engines as a portal for everything on the web. And when social came along, it posed itself in a way that conversational between humans. So kind of how you interact with your friends. So suddenly you only had to add your friends to a circle or to a list, or add friends to your account, and suddenly you would be very much connected to your network, and you would not need to search anymore. And this took away the little bit of the value of blogs, for example, because suddenly everyone started to post more on social media, and the posting on blogs your opinions fell down a little bit. Did it fall down completely? No, people still use blogs nowadays, but a big part of people that only had the chance to their only chance was a blog, either like on Blogspot or whatever, now have the chance of like, I could use a social, and is inherently connected to my profile, so kind of it's more immediate. So when AI came along, it's also gonna take a little bit of the need that people had, like, because so I think I need to give a step back here, like, so you have needs that not everyone has. Like, sometimes you have a problem with something around you, and your scenario is very unique. Like, nobody else has that problem. So you can have very common problems that are solvable by you search for it, and someone will have that problem in the past, and you can kind of go around the lines and follow the solution for the same problem. But sometimes your problems tend to be so unique that, chances are nobody else had that problem, or very few people had it, or even if there are a lot of people that had it, they are not documented online or in any website. And what happened with AIs is AI came in, and because AI is a system that uses embeddings, and embeddings are a system that kind of aligns, like, so it understands that king and man are on the same kind of vector, and queen and woman are on another vector kind of orientation in certain ways, but they are not the same thing. So if you have a similar problem to someone, for example, oh, I had a problem with my, I don't know, tire of my car, but someone else had a problem with the tire of their bike. One is a car, one is a bike, but it's still a tire, and the way to solve might be very different from one to the other, but the principles are somehow they align. And what the AI came to do, and so the AI understands the connection, and it's able to come and amass these two worlds and generate something that is unique to you and to your situation. So that this was something that search engines couldn't do, because what all they did was present information that already exists on the web as created by someone. But now AIs can take all the information that exists and mash it up and put it together in a way that fits your unique scenario. So and this is like, for me, this is the place that AI came to take, that was not completely fulfilled by search engines. It was, we used it in this way, but was not completely fulfilled. So, and so, and to some aspect, we will still want to confirm whether a brand exists, a product exists, or how does some place look like, or how does certain restaurant is evaluated, or how some car is tech specs are. And you will more often than not resort to search, because search will take you to the producer, to the manufacturer, to the person that produces that information at the source. And we know that to some extent AIs kind of are not completely reliable. They are useful, but they are limited, and they will always kind of be limited in a certain way. I don't think we will ever get to the, well, maybe like in 10 years you'll get the way where you say, oh, book me a vacation to the Caribbean, and you'll close your eyes and you let your AI do everything for you, decide prices, decide where you want to spend, decide where you want to eat, decide when you want to sleep. And if you trust AI to this level, then it's probably going to be at a very good stage, but I don't think we are there yet. So we will, for the time being, and I think for a good few years, we will be at the place where AI will do some automation work for us, but we will resort to search to continue doing our due diligence and go to the sources and buy things in a certain way, and be critical before we buy something. So you need to kind of go to the places where these things are, and more often than not, those are a website that has up-to-date information, and
right.
and the AI doesn't. And to certain aspect, like this to say, AIs use information pretty much like a search engine does, because they need to be trained, because AI is a mathematical corpus of algorithms that to work, it needs information. So where does this information come from? It comes from the web. How do you get information from the web? With a crawler. Well, how does a crawler work? Google work. That's how Google works, basically. And then, so what AI came as well to give a bit more complexity is that they use two types of retrieval systems. So they will use one retrieval system, which is a crawler that gathers information to train them. And then they use another retrieval system that uses information to ground their answers, right? Because when you ask something to an LLM, sometimes it needs to do a task, sometimes it needs to verify an information. And what this does is it will trigger some kind of little robot that goes out on the web or to search and performs searches, or goes out to a website and consumes this information that is on a website. That is also a bot. And that's also the same constraints and limitations than a normal bot like user that Google bot has, because there are no more advanced bots than Google uses that have been, Google has been at the forefront of crawlers, indisputably. So if you think about the limitations for any crawler, in these two ends, either for training or for grounding or augmented generation, then you have two ends of the same limitations that you need to deal with. You can infer and you can think, okay, but for the middle part, for the generative answer, can I kind of work or do something different that SEO has been doing? You probably can, because now you have, even if you, sorry, if you ask an AI, hey, why didn't you mention me when I asked you for best SEO businesses in London? Why didn't you mention my business? The AI will tell you why didn't it mention you, and you have what it takes now to go and refine your content. But that's not a very science and area on itself. That's just like content, working better content, working better branding, and working better your coverage as an all, because now you have a system that has a comprehension of much more granular and than you ever had, because before you only looked at keyword volumes and search volumes and intent of search. You missed a lot of things that didn't necessarily have volumes or intent that were in the middle, and the AI now can bring you this.
Okay. Now, do you think, what do you think about generative search or chat GPT? Will they fundamental change? I know they are already changing, but will they eventually fundamentally change discovery?
Sorry, say that again. They change what?
Is the discovery. So will they fundamentally change how we discover websites or how we discover information?
I believe so, because now you have that layer that I was talking about, where you will want some information that is unique to you and is tailored to you. So, for example, let's go to another parallel example. I know I'll come back to it. When we in the past, before Amazon was Amazon, you would search for everything that you want to buy online, right? But as you grew up accustomed or a fan of Amazon, because so all the levels of benefits that Amazon gives you, like easy returns, so some same-day delivery, sorry, whatever more. You will start to shift your habits from searching on Google to searching now more often than not. I find myself doing that. I search a lot of stuff first on Amazon before even I search on Google, because if I know something that is trivial, like, oh, I want some, kitchen rolls for my kitchen, I don't need to search for that in Google. I go to Amazon and I know where to buy it, and it gets delivered the next day to my home. So this is a habit of things that kind of became to align to that. And so if you think, like I was saying, we used search for everything, and now we are suddenly discovering that generative AI is much better for when we have a unique problem that the chances are very seldom, very few people will have, or the chances of being it online is very slim. So because AI has this power to generate something that doesn't exist, and by conflating 2 or 3 or 4 different aspects of your problem and creating this unique aspect of yours, we will inherently start to go for these systems when we want information that is more informational in nature. So if you want some information, if you want, what is the speed of light and what are the speed of light implications of time traveling, you can go to search and consume some papers. But if you want to discuss with a friend or something, you put this on a chat button, you have there everything in a summarized. So if a summarization is enough for you as a starting point, you will start in a generative AI, and more often than not, this will not award any clicks to websites that had this information. And I think to certain aspects, we need to get either okay with that or change our strategies to combat that. This is another segue that we can take then if you want, but it's another rabbit hole. If you want to kind of segment information that you want AIs to consume and what you want. So we have to be more selective, I would say, as content producers, as experts in our areas. Do you want to expose everything that you know to an AI so that it can kind of use it and expose it everywhere else? Or you want to keep some things close to you and be the destination where people come when these needs arise? Because, you don't want to give away all your cards. So in a certain aspect, I think we will have to get used that some level of information as like known facts, popular facts, summarization of not going very much in depth into a topic, very discoverable things are gonna be more and more going towards these generative systems. We don't know if this will generate clicks to our websites, even though they have dimensions. I think I've seen studies where people say, it has better conversion rates than normal search, but I already have seen other studies there where it says it doesn't, because, and I think it depends very much of your intent or the needs that you have. If your needs are just to get a summary of the information, and that's enough, then you're likely not going to click to the destination unless you need to verify it. But if you need to do something else, then you'll probably go to it. But so I think it came to take scheme away from the discovery part of the funnel, the initial funnel, that the top of the funnel, take away a little bit of what we were used to. And we can try to reclaim it and to see if there are ways to reclaim it. And I think this is where everyone is now, trying to see if there are ways that we can reclaim this traffic that once used to be discovery and top of the funnel, that now AIs kind of own it. But I think that more and more we will realize that we have to be comfortable that we will not have it unless you fulfill a need that's further than a summary, that the user needs just a summary of, or just like a very brief excerpt. So you have to to account for that and either include it in your expectations or keep studying around if there are ways to retrieve it.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about future of search. So if we zoom out, what's the future of SEO as a discipline, and do you think it will merge with growth and product more closely?
So indisputably, I think search will not disappear. Search will always be there, right? And as long as you have need to find something, and not the need to, you could say, like, I think I don't say the need for information, because the need for information now it's divided between the AIs and search, but you will always have the need to find something. Either the website, what is the website that has the information that this AI produced? And if you want to go in depth, if you want to contact the producer of that information, if you want something that has a better value or looks more professional, then an AI can produce it, because then you'll need to contact the person or the professional. So in a certain way, I think AI came to take a little bit, not only the top of the funnel, but work from people that produced like very kind of shallow kind of work. So for example, if you wanted like an illustration for your blog because you are publishing a blog post and you are not very good at graphics, so you want a quick illustration for your website. In the past, you could have someone do quick illustrations for you, and that would do like on Fiverr very cheaply and get these illustrations for your website. Whereas now, probably the same level of illustration, an AI can do it, and you pay like $20 a month, and I don't know, maybe it fulfills all your needs on summarizing content and creating short videos or a very quick and dirty illustration. But if you want something very professionally looking and well produced, you'll likely not go to an AI, because I think we are starting to realize that when you look to an image that is produced by AI, it's very telling that it's produced by AI. You can say that it's produced by AI, and it is a trait to it of like quick and low effort. So the person that wanted this image wanted something quick and also wanted low effort, so you have to understand that this might not be the traits that you want resonating with your image. So if you want your image to be more of a high-end professional, you will seek another level of image or content creation, or that is more that looks more professional, that has a different tone, that is and this you have to go out of the AI to get this until now. So you could say that in some point, in some aspect, AIs will be able to do this. Maybe, I don't know, but at this point we are not there yet. And I've seen that it has not been an accelerated growth. It has been actually like we had like a very quick growth in terms of the models that we have seen coming out. And then from GPT-4 to GPT-5, I think everyone saw not so much as
it just plateaued a bit, right?
It plateaued a little bit, right? It's not like anymore like a hockey stick growth that we were anticipating. So I think the same is going to apply to the outputs that the AI kind of give. We are having this kind of plateau of outputs that are going to stay at a certain level. They will continue to grow, but until something else comes along, I don't know if it's AGI or ASI or whatever comes along, that will, this will not kind of do the next high level trigger. So in this aspect, I think search and product, they will still need to kind of tap into each other, and always to kind of to foster growth and foster value for users. I mean, by all means, keep an eye on AI and keep playing with all this model context protocols, MCPs, and APIs that AI is kind of tapping into, because we've seen that OpenAI is already playing with APIs for Shopify and for e-commerce. I think a few days ago we saw that Amazon is suing Perplexity, I think, because they were using their agentic browser to shop on Amazon. And I think Amazon has some problem with this because it breaks their experience or whatever. I don't know. But we will start to get into this push and pull kind of fights where you'll see this big websites and big business kind of push back on AIs that not want to do everything. So to certain aspect, I think the human factor will still be needed, either for search or to interact with websites. So if humans still need to interact with websites and consume, and it's not going to always be bots, you'll still need to worry with your product, your website as a product, because you'll still have people consuming it. But now you have the addition of, you also have to cater for bots. So, potato, potato. So.
Okay, and where do you think human expertise will matter most in this AI-driven ecosystem?
Well, making sense of what should be published and what shouldn't, because I think we are using AI, and many people use AI as if it were intelligent, and I don't think AI is intelligent. AI has some level of, assertiveness and is very confident in telling you how something works, but sometimes the way, and I've experienced this a lot, because I chose not to use AI to publish anything that is public facing. My use of AI, for example, as an SEO, I use AI a lot for tickets for Jira, to put Jira tickets, because it's easy to create like a custom GPT with a certain level of instruction. Say, oh, you need to have acceptance criteria, you need to have a problem statement, you need to have a KPI section, and you should write it in this tone and this, consider this brand name, and then you just throw the bunch of problems that you see, and then the GPT creates a ticket for you. And a lot of times it creates tickets and I have to correct them. Because it does some statements that are not completely true, that were not real, that were not accurate to my scenario or to the scenario of the product managers, and I have to adjust them. So I think we need to be aware of that, unless all I want to say is that AI is not ready to be unsupervised publisher on the web, because it's going to create a lot of inconsistencies. It's going to create a lot of post out a lot of things that are simply not true, or hallucinate with some information. And if you let it run wild, you will be putting out things on your website that will act as a negative factor for the user who is reading them. And if a user is consuming your information, and if you are in a field like, if you are a financial website, or if you are an e-commerce, or where people have to put their credit cards or to buy something, having these mistakes might not be very good for your image. So I would say, be careful, do some kind of supervision, use it for automation, but not use it as something that is smart or intelligent and make the decisions for you, because ultimately you are the one that's going to be responsible for the decisions, and you cannot blame the AI, and you cannot fire the AI in case if it puts something out on your website that is not accurate. You'll be the one that gets fired. Do some kind of due diligence, supervise the AI output, and do not treat it like as an intelligent system. Treat it as an automation process that needs to be supervised.
Okay, now let's come to the last segment of our show, which is practical advice for SEO and agencies. Now, what skill or knowledge area do you believe agency owners should personally prioritize now, given all these shifts?
Well, I think everyone should be interested in finding more about how AIs work, because right now we only know the basics of these things. We know that they rely on information retrieval to gather information,
Right.
but there's a lot of every AI is a black box. We are not getting any data out of it. No AI gives you information in terms of what users are using them for. And we have a lot of other businesses that are starting to appear in the markets and promising that they have insights into these systems, saying, oh, you can track prompts or see what people are um, posting as prompts inside these boxes. But there's a lot of nuance to these statements, right? Because if you think about it, all these chats that you do on an AI, if you and I do the same chats exactly, because you and I have different cultures, different needs, different ways that we kind of contexts that we live in, this gets reflected in how the AI responds to you. So more often than not, my AIs kind of answer me because they consider that I have a technical background in SEO or in product management, and they consider this. I see this in their answers.
Right.
And as we go along, the AIs and the chatbots will try to be more useful to us individually. So even if I was saying, even if you and I do the same prompts, imagine that we do exactly the same prompts, have exactly the same problems, we will end up with very, very drastically different results. And I've seen a few folks that have been conducting tests, verifying this. So get 100 friends together, put together some prompts that you are going to do, give the same prompts to everyone, ask everyone to do the same prompts, and then at the end, just ask everyone to bring together and look at them differently, and you will quickly understand why this prompt tracking and in businesses that promising to track what users are searching are kind of a bit, I don't say completely useless, but they can be misleading, right? Because they will not reflect the truth. They will reflect at the best of the best, a little bit of directional, but I don't say that it might not even be accurate, because depending on the size of your business, how much the AI understands about you, or the brands that are in question, it might be completely misleading and completely different. So I think everyone should be aware of this, and that these systems are black boxes and no one has insights into them, and that these systems, besides being black boxes, they aim to be very personalized, very unique to the person that's using them. So take that as you will. Make from this information your own conclusions. I don't want to tell everyone that my truth is the truth, because I'm also learning, but this is what I know and the conclusions I've arrived at from knowing what I know about LLMs and knowing what I know about search and search engines and what the limitations that these systems have. So for agencies and for everyone else, I would say the best is to keep in the loop of what's happening, keep in the loop, studying how these things work, but focus on this focus on these outputs, on these systems from a content and from a branding point of view, and not so much from a mathematical or from a rankings point of view, because I think that's very granular in a way that will lead you towards a path that will be frustrated quite quickly. So this is my advice.
Okay, Pedro, with that, we come to the end of our session, and this was such an insightful conversation, and I really appreciate the clarity and balancing you bring. of course, grounded in the real world examples and experience, but of course, forward thinking. So thanks again for joining me on my show.
No, thanks for inviting me. Thanks for giving me the chance to kind of share these insights with you and with your audience. And it was a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, and for everyone else, if you found this episode valuable, subscribe, share, and leave us a review. It helps us bring more great minds like Pedro to the show. Until next time, keep optimizing, keep experimenting, and keep learning how to build better, smarter search experiences. Thank you.